agenda, including approval of our budget. But without objection, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take the items out of order and begin with item 3. And then after item 6, we'll go to items 1 and 2. Is there any objection? No. Okay. We'll go ahead and call item 3 then. Please make sure that your cell phones are off or at least turned to vibrating mode. Item number 3, interview respondents to the district's request for proposals for independent auditor for the fiscal years ending March 1st, 2006, 2007, and 2008. Debbie?
Yes, sir. We have 3 respondents. They're all 3 here as appointed. Sandra Altemeyer, Ellen Brown, Jeff Paul's and Lon Shelton with Palms Perez.
I would like to give each first of all, were the 3 respondents within spec?
Yes,
okay. So I think it's appropriate. Right. I think it's appropriate that we give each one an opportunity to make a presentation then in support of their proposals. So who's, I guess we'll do it alphabetically. Which is Ms. Altemeyer?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board director. I'm Sandra Altemeyer. I've had my own firm since 1986.
Excuse me, Ms. Altemeyer, if you want to take the podium that way, the camera can catch you as well, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Actually, I guess it's a little late to say I'm camera shy, but I am camera shy. And I used to be quite microphone shy too, but I'm getting over that. I'm Sandra Altemeyer. I've had my own firm since 1986. Prior to that, you may remember me as the Chief Financial Officer at Texas Southmost College. There I faced many of the same financial challenges that your organization faces here. And prior to that 4 years, I was the Chief Auditor of that college, along with the City of Brownsville, the Brownsville ISD, Port Isabel City, Port Isabel ISD, and then my very first audit job of all was the San Benito independent audit. Since I've had my own firm, I haven't done that many jobs of that size, but I'm well aware of what's involved and what the responsibility is. I think one of the main advantages to my firm is that we don't have juniors. Now, I feel somewhat badly in that I'm not doing my share of training the young ones, but my clients benefit because I have a world of experience on both sides of the audit table, both as an auditor and an auditee. One thing that occurred to me this morning, I was mulling over what would be of interest to you, is that my 3rd year as auditor of Texas Southmost College, they made the headlines one day that they owed $1 million back to the Department of Education for a miscalculation on the cost of education. And after spending considerable time and thought, I came across an exception in the financial aid regulations. And it took quite a bit of work to prove that the college met the exception for exceptional hardship, and we were thus able to be excused from that $1 million fine. Whether or not another means of getting out of it could have been found, that I don't know, but I do know that we were able to mitigate that claim. I think another strong point for our firm is that we only did the city of Los Fresnos 1 year, but I think that was in part because they received a modified opinion from me, and I also did not want to go back under those circumstances. They had their share, more than their share of problems at that time. Otherwise, the only other client we have lost is Vita, and they had been with me for 3 years. And their board was taking Sarbanes-Oxley very seriously and felt that they needed to make a change after 3 years with the same audit firm. So for those reasons, and because of what I perceive to be my creativity, in my early days when I was teaching 8th grade typing, I had no failures in 400 students. I take that as, because I've heard grown-ups say, oh, I didn't like typing, I didn't do it. Well, in my class, everyone learned to type 35 words a minute or better, because I think of my innovations and the way I presented the work to them so that they worked hard and they practiced hard. Our firm's goal is to not to come in as a detective trying to find fault, but to come in a supportive role to work with the team and to try to improve systems, internal controls, operations, with all the very best, latest technology that's available. If any of you have any questions?
All I can say is you didn't have me in your class of typing. I'm up to 10 words a minute now.
See, if I had Julius, you'd be a typist today.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Let's see. I guess the next person would be Mr. Barrera on behalf of his accounting firm, Long and Chilton.
Members of the board, my name is Carlos Barrera. Juan Mendoza is here. I think he's hiding in the back somewhere. He's a principal in our firm. Didn't know how this interview was going to take place, so I didn't know if there was a prepared speech or whatever, but I'm a partner in the firm. We have, I believe, there's 9 partners, 3 offices valley-wide. The Brownsville office has served you, I guess, for the last, and I'm going to guess, 10 years, approximately. We also do the Brownsville-Rio Grande Railroad. And the last 10 years that we've served as your auditor, I can safely say that we've seen the support from one end to the other, from the standpoint of good years, bad years, in-between years. And we've gone through some very interesting times, especially this last couple of years. But I think we've all done fairly well, Bet. So I bring at least to the table experience with respect to the port. Know your concerns, know your problems, the issues. We have a good staff, and I don't know what else to say. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to try to answer them. Well, this is scary.
We already asked you all the questions.
Anything for Mr. Barrera? Okay, thank you, Carlos.
Sure enough.
And last, but certainly not least, Mr. Cascos, on behalf of his firm, Patillo, Brown & Hill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carlos Cascos. I'm with the accounting firm Patillo, Brown & Hill. Hi, Donna. How are you? It gives me great honor to be here trying to sell our firm to you. I used to work on this account many, many years ago, back when I had hair and I was a few pounds thinner, and when I was with the firm with Alexander Grant Company many, many years ago. You know, I think that when listening to the two prior presenters, your audit shouldn't look any different regardless of the firm that does it. If we all follow the same standards, we all follow the same etiquette, hopefully we all have the same professional work ethic, your numbers shouldn't look any different than from my report to Long Chilton's report to Ms. Altemeyer's report. They should all be the same. We want to bring to this navigation district just a different set of eyes. I think it's commendable that the firm of Long Chilton has been your independent auditor for a number of years. But at the same time, sometimes it's a good idea to rotate after a few years. You know, our firm believes in, we don't like to acknowledge it, but I get asked all the time, when's a good time to rotate? There really never is a really good time, but for the most part, anywhere from 5 to 7 years is a good time to start rotating. So you have a different pair of eyes, fresh pair of eyes looking at it. Not that any firm is going to find anything or anything of that. That's not the purpose or the scope of the audit. The audit that's prepared in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles and auditing standards. The purpose of that report is not to find problems or to find embezzlement or to find improprieties. That's not the purpose of an audit. The purpose of an audit is to give you an opinion on the fairness of your financial statements. And one must keep in mind that these financial statements belong to the board. These are your financial statements. Our role is simply to give you an opinion on those financial statements, test your transactions to make sure that the policies and the procedures that this board has implemented are being adhered to to and being followed by your organization, by your staff, and hopefully come back with constructive comments, constructive management comments that'll help you run a better ship. No pun intended, but that's a purpose, and we stand ready to provide those services to you. We do all size accounts. We do the largest entity in South Texas, and we do some of the smallest entities in South Texas. We do accounts that exceed $400 million, and we do accounts that only have $2 or $3 million. So our firm is pretty diversified as far as the size clients that we have. Our auditors are experienced. We do have junior auditors, and we do have seniors, and we do have managers, and we do have partners. Our firm is a regional firm. We do have numerous offices in the state of Texas and an office in New Mexico. We've done publicly traded companies before. We've done governmental. We do municipal. We do counties. We do probably 20 counties within the state of Texas. We do over 100 municipal governments throughout the state. The good thing about having a large firm, like Long & Chilton or ourselves, that we have inventory of personnel that we can call upon. Not a single partner and or staff person has every answer to every question, but we have the resources and the people infrastructure to be able to go to them when we have certain questions that we need answers to. So with that, if there's no other questions, I'd like to just ask for your support. We'd be honored to do this audit, and anything that we can do for you, to make this job easier, we'd be happy to do.
Thank you, Mr. Cascos. Any questions for Mr. Cascos? How long have we? I'm sorry, it's not a question for you directly, but I guess for Donna, since I think amongst us, maybe you've been here the longest. How long has Long & Chilton been our auditor?
I believe for about 10 years.
Okay.
At least. I'll go back and finish.
And Debbie, it was your initiative to put this out for bid.
We're trying to do everything and get everything out to bid. Yes, I've been out to bid.
And I think that's always a good idea, to put professional and other services out for bid to make sure that we're getting the best quality service and at the lowest possible price. But I just wanted to make it clear that initiative came from the staff. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the action item, which is item number 4. Consider and take action to select independent auditor for the fiscal years ending March 1st, 2006, 2007, and 2008. Requests for proposal were received on February 14th, 2006. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
We haven't seen the bid. I haven't found it.
I just seen those 3 proposals when I sat here. I didn't have a chance to read anything.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, Julius.
Huh?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, I just seen those 3 proposals when I sat here. I haven't had a chance to go through them.
is that the case for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Before we address
anybody now, when I'm looking through them.
before we address that, Commissioner Gaiman was asking about the amount, and just so everyone's clear, Ms. Altemeyer, her price is $25,400 each year. Long & Chilton's price is
5,500, I think.
$25,500 each year, and Mr. Cascos' firm's price is $30,000 each year. Now, I want to also point out something, especially because the low bidder is $100 less than the next bidder, that these bids were not sealed, these bids were not unsealed in the presence of any commissioner. Is that correct? In other words, no commissioner was present when these bids were unsealed. Okay. So, as far as tabling action on this to allow us to review these proposals, do we have time for that, Debbie? Our fiscal ends on March 1st, or begins on March 1st. Our next meeting, gentlemen, is March 3rd. Is Long & Chilton contracted to do the fiscal year that ends on February?
This was the last year.
Okay. Would that present a problem if we were to defer acting until March 3rd?
We won't have that house started until usually after April 15th. And we won't have the books closed, certainly.
So that would not create a problem. Is that what y'all want to do, gentlemen?
I think so.
Okay. Do we have a motion to table?
So moved.
To the March 3rd meeting. We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, there are none. Item number 5. Receive analysis from RWL Group of the bids for property and liability. Thank you very much to each of the presenters for being here. Receive analysis from RWL Group of the bids for property and liability insurance bids received on February 2nd, 2006.
They are here.
Okay. If you would just introduce yourself, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Carolyn Miller. I'm a senior consultant with RWL Group. We've been working with Debbie for the last year on putting together an RFP for property and casualty insurances for the port and taking competitive bids. We put the coverages out for bid. We only had 2 insuring bodies, if you will, that responded. Although there were more than that actually got bid specifications, there were only 2 that actually responded with bids. Do you have copies of my report? You do. Okay. Have you each had a chance to read the report that I did on those bids?
It was all I had to was
Okay. The no one insuring body put together a bid that encompassed all of the coverages that the port needs. You have very specialized coverages, and so the markets are very limited as to who's willing to write for any port. But the location of where Port of Brownsville is also presents problems because of windstorm issues. And the bids that came in after the hurricane season of last year, which means that the bids that came in reflect increased wind costs by a substantial amount. The major windstorm coverages would go up from $84,000 to $216,000, almost $217,000, if a change is made. The reason for the bidding was twofold. One was to do a competitive bidding, which had not been done for a period of time. And secondly, the idea was to try and change the effective dates to the fiscal year, because that was much more manageable administratively to have these insurances coming up and have it concurrent with your fiscal year. And so the bids that came in were done on a concurrent with your fiscal year basis. Because of the increases that these bids reflect, we can't recommend you make a change at this time. Now, you may see the same kind of an increase in October when your coverages actually expire or are really up for renewal. But we can't recommend that you make a change to the new fiscal year at this time because of the substantial cost increase to the port now, and you have no way of budgeting for that at this time, etc. So we are recommending that you leave the program in place that you currently have in place, with a few exceptions. We're recommending that you add some coverages. For instance, you now have a police department, which you didn't previously have, and so you have a law enforcement liability exposure that we feel that you need to address. And we can ask that the Texas Municipal League put that in place for you. And that was reasonably quoted at an annual premium of $2,705. We are also recommending that your public officials liability and employment practices liability limits be increased from $1 million to $2 million. And that's an annual additional premium of $1,045. We're also recommending that you put in place some fidelity coverage, which you currently do not have.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Is it Carolyn?
Carolyn, yes.
Carolyn. It's been a while since I've handled a Tort Claims Act, but it's my recollection that the liability for an entity such as ours, Mr. Renfro, is the maximum cap is $250,000.
That's correct for governmental functions. And
so why would we want to
the
purchase?
state of the law currently is that all port functions are governmental functions.
So why would we want to purchase insurance under the police department for $2 million if our cap is only $250,000?
Well, I can think of two reasons, and I can't really comment on the coverages.
I guess let me ask you, why would you recommend that we purchase insurance
It has
multiple times more than what our legal liability limit is?
Primarily, it would be due to possibilities of violation of civil rights.
That's what I was being
But it's still, there's cap is still $250,000.
The civil rights claims are not capped.
No, they are not. The civil rights claims are not capped, and the cost to the port to put in place the limits that we're recommending is not a substantial amount at this point, the $2,700. Now, any of these that you would put in place now, if you were to put into place the increase in your public officials liability, which is basically the public entity version of directors and officers liability, right. So it's geared to protect you folks. And the police, the law enforcement legal liability, and the fidelity coverage, those would be done on a pro rata basis, so the additional premium that you would be looking at would not be the full amount that's shown on the spreadsheet attached to my report. To carry you through October 1, which is your current effective dates, it would be somewhere a little bit over $2,600 for the balance of the year for those three coverages.
Let me ask you also, Carolyn,
yes.
on the fidelity coverage, the employee dishonesty coverage.
Yes.
We've passed last year for the first time an anti-fraud policy. Mm-hmm. Are we getting credit for that in this rating?
I can't answer that question. I don't think that was addressed specifically in the specifications that were drawn up. I don't think that we knew about that.
Yeah, it's so like,
there may be some additional credit due on that. I don't know. I'd have to check.
Can you check on that for us? Sure. Because it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like a car having two airbags and only getting credit for one on your auto insurance.
Okay.
But we do have a comprehensive anti-fraud policy that addresses and encourages employees to come forward and report suspected fraud.
It's possible that we did.
It's possible.
I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't recall it specifically, but I'll check that out and let you know.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
that's okay.
I think you're on that coverage right now. So.
Well, yeah, the fidelity coverage was an annual premium of $782,
okay.
And that would be at a limit of I think that's $500,000,
mm-hmm. Subject
to a deductible of $2,500, and it also would include a coverage for $150,000 of computer fraud coverage in there.
Are you going to continue through?
Well, that's basically what our recommendations are. Part of what we're going to be doing on an ongoing basis, moving forward from here, is to address some additional issues that have come up that weren't. It wasn't really practical to try and address them in this RFP process. And those are outlined on the second page of my report. We want to address with the staff and with the legal counsel, the need for maintaining certain specialty marine coverages, simply because we feel that perhaps you don't have the exposure due to your public entity status. And so we feel that those certain coverages should be reviewed with legal and with staff to determine, do you really need to keep paying for something that you don't really need, or we don't think you need. Also, your current pollution coverage for the port does not include remediation, and we think it would be beneficial to at least obtain quotes to find out what pollution cleanup costs would cost you to insure.
Are there any coverages that are expiring on March 1st?
No, sir.
I think, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason for sort of the urgency of having this presentation today and the RFPs today was because of the possibility of changing the effective dates?
That's correct. If we were to take some of these quotes, they expire on March 1st.
And so with that,
since we're not,
then we have a little bit of time to review this. Is that right?
Yeah.
For the record.
Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of like Julius. I haven't had a chance
Yeah,
to
I
fully.
haven't had a chance.
I mean, it was just left here on our desk. and,
Yeah.
It,
So I recommend we look it over and vote on the next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
I think so. I think
Second.
So. And that'll be in response to item number 6. Let me just
But
read.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Would that change the quotes that we got?
Well, the quotes that you have, some of them will expire as of March 1, but you don't want them anyway.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
because
thank you.
because it would cost you more money. I mean, it's going to be our recommendation that the ones that are expiring on March 1 you don't put into place anyway because it
Okay.
would cost you too much money. Okay, so and the ones that are good beyond March 1st, you got time to look at those.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and read the item, and then we can have a motion. Consider and take action to award bids for property and liability insurance program received on February 2nd, 2006,
Make a motion to table it to the next meeting?
to the March 3rd meeting.
March 3rd.
And we have a second. Any discussion?
May I ask a question? Specifically, does the law enforcement liability quote extend past March 1st?
Yes, that will extend past March 1st. Texas Municipal League is the one that has that out there, and their quote is good past that date.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, there are none. Item number 1, receive input from the district staff regarding the district's operating budget for fiscal year ending March 1, 2007. Debbie? Debbie, and I guess Mr. Lewis.
Just a quick introduction. Very pleased with the way this is working out so far. There are maybe 2 items that I'd like to address. Number one, that we have asked for the inclusion of a real estate development person. This is what we're thinking is a very high-level professional that perhaps, as we go out to search for this individual, we'll maybe consider a person with a commercial real estate license, and also that this individual, thank you, that this individual have very good connections at a national level for developers to come and consider, for developers to come and consider being our lessees. And beyond just leasing the land, what we're looking for is to bring in large businesses that will, beyond the land lease revenues, bring good revenues for the district at a higher level. So we are all cognizant of the amount of acres that we have, in the neighborhood of 45,000 acres, and we think that there is strong justification to have a person on our staff to go out and dedicate all of their efforts, all their energy, and all their experience and time to those larger objectives. Our land is not going to go away. It's going to be here forever. So so that's that proposal. That is already structured in here. One item that is not, and it was some conversations that were taking place, whether we increase the number of full-time employees for our facilities maintenance. And at last moment, we are recommending to add 3 permanent positions to that. And basically, that would be converting over from temporary workers over to permanent. So with that, I think that Debbie can go through the motions, and so everybody can follow how it was put together. And I think it's very healthy. It's very positive, and we'll go from there.
Bernie, I got a question
Yes,
before we get
yes.
started. If we put a real estate person on, and that person doesn't bring any business to the board, then what's going to happen with that?
Well, and I think you also got it on your places. We're looking at some people that will go out and do the search for us, and we've already discussed it that we want to. What you say is always a remote possibility, but I think that we're not going to make a decision until we're all comfortable and the commission is also comfortable with the person that's selected. If they're not going to do that high-level results seeking, then we're not even going to fill the position. But for now, we think that is doable.
What I want to do is, if we hire somebody, I don't want to get stuck with them if they're not performing. And there's going to have to be some kind of, you're going to have to do this or that or something, or give so much time, and if they don't do it, then they're gone.
Well, I agree, and we're all under those same conditions, and if we don't perform, we will. But again, how it's structured is, but I think that if we do find hopefully a senior person that has a track record of having attained good results through the years with other entities, they should perform here, and that's the best guarantee I think we can offer. Yes.
Mr. Lester, you plan to hire this person permanently or on part-time basis?
Well, initially we thought about hiring that person permanently. Again, to get continuity, that they get the relationships with the companies that would come here on a long-term basis.
And my second question, what would be the starting salary of whoever it is?
I believe, Debbie, the range is like between $53,000 and $80,000 per year.
Other ports have this type of individual?
Other ports that I'm familiar with do have that kind of individual, and of course have a lot less land to be offered than we do. Mm-hmm.
And what is the title given at other ports for that individual?
Economic development, real estate development, real estate director, real estate manager, all different types of, and different areas have different needs, and we would formulate this position for our particular needs.
And essentially the objective of this position is to lease out more land and to come up with new and innovative ways to develop existing port land?
That is correct, and we want to think big, and this person to be of that nature. The director of real estate that we have now will continue, with the mechanics of the leasing activity that's taking place now, and also grow that. That's more of a local function as we see it. We're looking at this as being a broader, and again, attracting large companies that have been successful, Boeing, whoever these people are connected with, to bring them down and develop our areas, and again, benefit from the revenues that they can generate as a company, throughput, other things that we've discussed.
You've had an opportunity now since being here since essentially September, and you identify this as a need in our port to increase the revenues of the port.
Absolutely, and we also are realistic that that's not going to happen overnight, but now is the time to start.
Any other questions regarding that position?
Letting people go from a government body is pretty difficult. So that's the only thing I want to do is when we hire them, have something that they have, some goals they have to meet to stay on. And if they don't, we can cut them loose. And maybe Dan can help build something in the hiring.
It could be contractual.
We can have an out if they don't perform.
It can be contractual.
We can't, I don't think, just to take the flip side of that, we cannot incentivize production, can we, as a governmental employee?
It's not typically done. If you agree to it in advance, in other words, in effect, pay a commission.
Yeah, can you pay commissions on government land?
It's not typically done. I'm not sure I'm prepared to say you can't, but it is not typically done.
And in the leasing policy, we have an incentive that we pay
to outside agents.
Outside agents. We do in our leasing policy right now.
To outside agents.
If they bring in someone, they are paid a commission.
You see that I see the position more of what they're talking about a little bit. It's just I don't know who these individuals are either, but I've got a couple questions, but I don't know if I can.
Well, I think all we're doing today is is deciding whether or not to have a line item for that position.
That's correct.
In the budget. And if we decide ultimately to not follow the port director's recommendation and not have that position, then we just accrue that as savings.
That's correct.
One thing that I was thinking of that we probably need is, with all the talk about, you know, with all everything that's been happening at the port with our problems with the dredging and so forth, I don't see how we could incorporate this same person, or we can put one or the other, is a liaison between government entities and somebody at the port that will directly be in constant dealings with the state and the federal government and our consultants, whoever that may be, just to be in, that's their number one job, is because that is very time consuming, and at the same time I think the staff has done a fantastic job over the problem we've had here, but I think that, you know, a position like that can only help the port in our communication with state and federal. And I was just thinking about that. I don't know if we can incorporate it, you know, so we can talk about it and think about it a little bit more.
You're saying a new position?
I'm saying unless staff has some, I just don't think that, you know, there's a lot of burdens that are put already on the people currently employed at the port, and I think we need somebody that their sole it's going to be a consultant, but in our port. That's all they're going to do. It's going to be
like a director.
I know we don't want to. we don't like those words.
We don't like consultants.
A director of governmental affairs, for example, would be the position. And to respond to your request is that I have thought about that a lot, and I think we need to give it some consideration. But I just think our immediate needs with all of our land, our first priority would be that. And just to add to that, we also discussed, and I thought about, you know, a cruise development person. But I just think that that's something that we need to mature a little bit more and consider for our next budget, session. Yeah, yes.
One other item. We at the port cannot sell land. It will only be leasing land. Do we develop a policy? We can't, can we?
You can declare land surplus itself. It's been the policy of the board not to do that. But you can, if you make the determination the land is surplus to your needs, you can sell it.
Just to follow up what Commissioner Cristiano said, I think the day after I got elected, I told Mr. Bastedo that I thought that there was a need for that. And I arrived at this opinion independent of Luigi. I felt that there was a need for that individual, and he said that he felt that those responsibilities were being handled currently by other staff members. I hear what you're saying. I think that would be helpful, whether it's your recommendation, whether it's something that we can afford. You know, I'll wait to hear what you have to say about that. But I do think it should be done, in my opinion, it should be done under your direct auspices, but it should be somebody that is exactly what they do, is coordinate federal, state, local, county, all the nonprofits. If we do it right, we can leverage it to our benefit. If the person does it right, it can be leveraged. Or whether it's just a matter of reestablishing it as a priority for an existing employee. That's going to be the call. And I think there is a need for, we saw the numbers, how we're getting shorted here compared to Corpus. So there has to be a better effort on our part.
Well, and again, to respond, I think we have focused a little harder on that bridge between us and our consultants and we've had several comments with the board in open session about being more effective in that effort. Recommendations well taken. We're moving towards that. We now have a PR person and carrying some of that load as far as the day-to-day and community relations and so on. And of course, Deputy Emard has also I think wearing that extra hat with governmental relations on a day-to-day basis in a big way. Of course, I'm involved, and some other people as well. So, I think it would help, but I think again we could wait maybe one more year to mature that. And maybe consider it on down, but an intergovernmental affairs type of person, is always valuable.
Anything else before we?
Just a second. On the director of real estate, Bernie?
Yes.
I know we had talked about the real estate license, and here it just says preferred.
Okay, and I didn't say etched in stone, but probably the word is preferred as we get into this.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Commissioner, but I think all we're doing today is deciding whether to have a budget item for it. Then, if we go forward, you're going to develop the RFQ, statement of qualifications, and we'll send it out
Yes,
and
sir.
then see what fish we catch.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And at that point, Roy, we can tweak
Fine tune
the
it, yes.
qualifications. Should have a real estate license, don't you think?
I'll truly go based on what staff recommends, but why wouldn't we put the other positions on the
budget?
On the budget, have a line item. The day tomorrow we start developing something with a cruise line. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but wouldn't we be just playing it safe by putting it in there?
Well,
I mean, we don't have to hire him tomorrow.
no, and that's the same reasoning that we approached this one, but this was through the analysis was sort of our top priority, that we could we could wait a little longer. It wouldn't hurt, but I just don't.
How would it hurt if we?
You could make a motion. She can maybe show you where to put it in.
It ties up some of our money,
Yeah.
but it can always be changed.
Do we have the money to do it?
Well, we're not hiring anybody right now. I mean, it's just
It's an item,
But we have to be able to
Guess
show.
it happens.
we have to be
There are
able
a
to show
number
that.
of positions in this budget that are probably not going to get hired this year.
But we still have to allow.
We typically
for-
do that, and that's kind of like bonus money at the end of the year.
We still have to allow to be able to pay them.
yeah.
If they're hired, they're already budgeted. We have to go back in and readjust the budget later.
How would it affect? Would it really change the whole dynamic, or not really?
What do you think that person should be paid, just off the top of your head? You're the employment guy.
The cruise person?
No, the intergovernmental.
Oh, affairs. Okay.
You're looking at me like I should know.
No, that's my stare blank face.
You know what?
It would
be
a position like that really would depend on the person and the experience that the
And that's
person
it.
brings in. I mean, you can do somebody as simple as a very entry level position where they're just on top of it, reporting to top management, where all they're doing is just looking at the laws and where we can maybe get some grants, where we can do certain things. And then you can get somebody where it has a multitude of experience that comes in and gets the bull by the horns and tackles it. So I think it's a very wide range depending on the person. But I would say anywhere between low end 25, high end 60. I mean, I'm just making that up. I mean,
I'm just trying to look here.
I'm saying this without knowing what person we're looking for, without any criteria, that's just.
That'll attract anywhere from a government major graduate, to somebody that's worked on the Hill for maybe a couple of years.
That's right. I mean, that's what I'm shooting for. It's just, I don't know.
The effect on the budget of a $20,000 or $21,000 employee.
Let's just say 50.
50 is probably going to be right at 60 to 70,000 once you get all the benefits in.
Okay. And what effect would that have?
We would add them in. Right now we're running at a budget that gives us a net income of about $677,000. We would just reduce this number down.
Bottom line, Luigi.
Personally, I think we do need a position, but I'll go on staff on whatever they recommend. If they don't think we need it, I don't want to overburden or.
Well, I think although this position can, and I'm going to use the word make money, and I'm going to use that very dangerously because
Understand.
you're not really making money, you're just redistributing it. But the position that you're recommending that we create actually will make money.
That's
if
the
they do their job,
objective.
if they do their job correctly.
That's the
They
objective.
actually will make real money.
That is
They'll
correct.
increase sales volume and lease rentals for the port.
And especially long-term.
I think that's a priority, but that's not to say that yours isn't.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Whatever staff recommends. I personally, just being here, I think we need somebody. But that's my opinion.
Well, we can certainly put it in, and just like with this other position, let's analyze it, and if we do again, I think the important thing is to marry up the right professional with a task, and that's where we're going to have success. So I would recommend going slowly to fill it to make sure that we're all satisfied that person will contribute, just like your comments. But I'd be fine with putting that in. That would be.
I would feel comfortable putting it in. If it doesn't, I mean, it's for staff to recommend and decide when we need it.
Absolutely.
But just to have it, I'd rather be on the safe side.
We're happy you're thinking that way.
Mr. Renfro, assuming that you can, I'm going to go back to this other position, this real estate position. Assuming that we can legally and appropriately make that position salary plus commission, how do you budget for commission? Or I guess, who would pay the commission? The potential lessee? So therefore, it wouldn't be on the budget anyway.
Well, the safest thing to do, and in my mind, the responsible thing to do, would be to put a cap on that commission.
But
so that if, for instance, Boeing did decide they wanted to move to Brownsville, you weren't faced with paying a six-figure commission.
But who pays the commission? The employer or
typically in the normal real estate transaction, the seller pays the commission, who may then split it with an agent representing the buyer. Now, the port has a policy, and many large companies have policies that they will pay half of the typical commission to a buyer's agent that brings someone in for a transaction.
we have that currently?
We have that currently.
But that's not to an employee.
That's not to an employee. No, that's to a licensed real estate broker.
I wasn't talking about giving a commission. I was talking about having a way out if they don't perform.
Good. Well, in my mind, the best solution to that would be to just have a contract for a term and that could be renewed or not by the board in its discretion.
Yeah, that would be a good way to do it.
Okay, well, I guess we have a lot to think about, but we can go ahead and actually get to the budget.
Okay. Before we get off the real estate, there is a job description in your packet for the real estate, and I'm going to recommend that we remove that.
Is that in this?
That's in the original one that you got.
What under what colored tab number?
In the very end, the very last tab, number 5, and it would be toward the back. And where I'm hearing that y'all are going toward a contract, we will actually remove that, and at the time that we do this, we'll come up with a contract or.
Page 7 under.
Gotcha. Well, it's the Director of Real Estate Development?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. Towards the back. Number 5.
Joe,
Yes, sir.
PE3, the classification,
Directors.
whose phone?
Joel.
Please turn that off, Joel. Professional employee PE3.
That's the director's position.
I was going to ask you who's PE3 right now.
Debbie, Dee, Tony, Herman.
Okay, gotcha. And your
I would recommend that we remove that. As you adopt the budget, you are adopting all of these job descriptions, and from what I'm hearing is that we're not set on this one yet. So I would recommend we'll pull this one out from the adoption of this budget. Okay.
Already had one marked.
Okay. The staff is very pleased with this budget. I normally have to go back to the staff numerous times and say, we got to cut here, we got to cut here. This one pretty much came together with a positive balance at the end on our first go-round. It's a very, very strong attempt, and I'm real pleased with it. The revenues on this budget are a little bit higher than last year's, but not much. Where we are seeing the savings are on our expenses. I'll go through my. We're predicting a net income from the budget as you see it of $677,348, and I would note the documents that I just handed you are the same budget with the additional 3 positions that Mr. List just talked to you about, so you can kind of compare back and forth. Cargo numbers have reached record numbers in 2005. However, we are holding steady on our budget for our revenues in 2006. We do anticipate that it's going to go up, but we have a little bit of uncertainty at the beginning of our year. We're going to go holding steady on our revenues. A significant portion of our maintenance of our budget in expenses is in maintenance. We are currently doing a project to reskin and rehab most of the docks and the sheds out here, and the 3 positions that we're talking about, that is their primary duty here at the port. They've already started in as a crew, and they're working well along I believe 12, 13, and 14. Correct. And they're making considerable headway against this project. But again, most of our expenses hit in this division. All the materials that go into maintaining the port and repairing the port are in Division 51. Division 59 is our environmental division. We have not, fortunately, had any major expenses in this division for a while, but we do budget for the contingency if there's an environmental cleanup that we're hit with. There's some consulting fees and other fees to start a cleanup in case we are forced to do one. There is a projected cash flow of nearly $1 million. This is stronger than we normally see it. This cash flow that we usually see is what we dedicate for capital improvements. Our capital improvements list is approximately $20 million, of $4 million of which, $4 to $5 million of which, is scheduled to come out of our operating funds. Typically, we can have the cash flows to do a significant portion of a capital wish list of this nature. And I would expect that a lot of what you see on our capital wish list will be at least begun during our next fiscal year. There are some things on our capital work list, or our capital works list, that are that we're seeking some outside funding, either federal funding or some bond funding or some other external funding for, and those will be bringing back to you. We do note at this time also that on our capital works list, it's there because you have adopted a budget that does not give us the authorization to go out and start doing everything. It's as we get the funds available, we'll go back to you and let you know that we're going to start a project. Dock 16 is one of our primary projects. We will be focusing a lot of attention on how to finance that project. There'll be probably some operations funds put into this, but primarily outside financing will be brought in. We have talked about the merit raises, and I know that the cost of living and merit raises were a question. I had some calls earlier today. In the packet that I handed you at the very back, there is an analysis of individual by individual of how those raises are calculated. Cost of living that we have in this budget is 4.7%. It's a little higher than we've ever given. However, we really hit a high cost of living in the last year. The merit increases run from 3 to 4.5%. In the organizational chart, we have new positions added. There's an analysis of the new positions. And if you're looking at that analysis with the line by line, the ones in red are new or changing positions. There are 2 secretarial positions that are currently part-time, and we're recommending that they go to full-time. One in the Industrial Development Department and one in the Engineering Services Department. In the Facilities Maintenance Department, we are recommending the 3 general labor positions that Mr. List talked to you earlier about, and 1 new crane operator. We need to start identifying some more hands on these cranes. In the Security Department, we are recommending the addition of 1 new police officer. We currently have an employee that just graduated from the police academy, and he is a part-time security guard, and we're recommending that this new police position be opened and that we could consider adding a new police officer. In this department, we would like to add a position that we call facilities inspector. We have, as a staff, discussed the fact that we need to have someone constantly out on our docks and our sheds, viewing what's going on. If there are problems on lease sites, they would be able to bring them to our attention. We have some issues at the fishing harbor where we need to keep a close eye on fishing vessels. And our recommendation would be to have 1 person dedicated to this who has a consistent eye. As he sees it every day, he's going to notice the differences as they happen. In the security department, we're also recommending to convert 2 part-time dispatcher positions into a full-time position, which we're calling a security operations clerk. One of the problems that we have in this department is vacations and sick cause a lot of overtime. We would like to have a person in this department to answer the phone, to do their clerical work, typing purchase orders and typing up incident reports, but they could also be used as a security guard when we have absences that make it necessary. In the engineering department, we are recommending that we add a graduate engineer or an engineering technician. This would be a person to assist Hector in overseeing projects that we're doing. It would help our surveyors and our draftsmen to complete their projects. The other position in this department we've already gone over is the secretary position. Okay, all of these positions that we've discussed, as well as the real estate development, are already factored into the numbers that you see in this budget. Okay. The job descriptions for these are also included in your packet. And actually, when we adopt this, we adopt the new organizational chart, and we adopt the job descriptions. And again, this does not authorize us to go out and hire all these people and put them on the payroll. It just allocates some funds in case they are decided to hire. I don't know if there are any questions. This pretty much is a very straightforward budget. It's very similar to the budgets that we've done in the past.
Mr. Liss, are you satisfied with the budget?
I'm very pleased with it. And I think it gives us all the resources to carry out the functions and very well put together. And I want to congratulate staff and all the hours that they put in to make this a good document, a good working budget.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Question. I just got these sheets here, and I'd like to talk to legal counsel about personnel before I vote on it.
Okay, well, let's, do we have a motion to table? Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll leave the pending motion on the table for now. All those in favor of going to executive session, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There are none. Ladies and gentlemen, just let us stand adjourned for an indeterminate period of time. We'll call y'all when we're ready to come back in. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. We had an opportunity to discuss some personnel matters in executive session, and we're going to go back to item number 2. Consider and take action on the adoption of a district's operating budget for fiscal year ending March 1st, 2007. When we adjourned into executive session, we had a motion and a second pending Joe, as the maker of that motion, did you want to amend it?
I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. Do we have any motion?
I'll make a new motion.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the budget as presented, except for the merit raises and for 27.
The cost of living.
Yeah.
All right. Motion is, all right, I'll second that motion.
Okay, then the motion, so I understand it, the motion is that it be approved as presented, except that the issue of merit raises and the cost of living allowance would be tabled to the next meeting, at which time the port director will give his recommendation.
Right.
Is that correct, Mr.
That's
Collins?
right.
Mr. Collins? Okay, any discussion?
No.
Luigi, did you have anything?
In the amendment, on the motion, we need to add a I would like to see if we could amend it for a governmental position. For the, what's the position called?
They call it either
Government affairs.
intergovernmental affairs or governmental affairs.
At what
Governmental-
level would you want us to put this one?
Well,
It would have to fall under the,
At a director or
No, I recommend
More
that
of
if
secretarial?
at the director level, if we're going to do something like that, it needs to be, somebody with some experience.
Corpus and Houston both have them. Do you know where Nelda would fit in?
They don't really have, it's like directors, they're more managers, but in the same basis, it would be like our director. But in Houston and Corpus, they're not really called directors, they're just managers.
Do you know those?
I would say either
ranges.
here, it doesn't really.
What they.
We have a Gulf
She
Coast
deals more with
salary
when I time and visiting
survey that I can
with
get from
people.
her.
I think it should be under Donna. I think it should be probably under Donna.
and salary levels in the 40s, 50s?
Yeah, just say four. I mean, this can be amended depending on the type of person that we're looking for. I would just say 40s.
I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? I'm in favor of creating the position. However, I would like the port director to give, is it the first time you've heard this idea? For this position?
That I've heard it here,
Yes.
I've thought about it.
No,
but I
is this the
haven't.
first time that you actually heard it?
Yes, sir.
Would you like some time to think about where it should fall in the organizational chart?
I would appreciate that, considering
Can we
where
do
it
that?
best,
Yes, definitely.
it best works.
Definitely,
we
because
can-
you're
we-
putting me on the spot
We
right
can
now
create
to
the-
make a.
We can create the position, but then let him tell us where on the organizational chart it should fall. Is that fair?
That is very
Will you
fair.
accept that amendment, Joe?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. And at the salary range of how much?
Let the,
That's what that.
Director level, it'd fall within
Okay, it's already PE3.
Yeah.
Okay,
A
it's a
PE3.
PE3 position. Okay. And you'll have that recommendation for us also by the
On
March 3rd
March the
meeting.
3rd.
Okay. So, everybody understanding what the motion is, what the amendments are, what's entailed? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There are none. Do we have any other items?